Namaskar and welcome, Joshi ji and my viewers and Joshi ji's fans who are seeing this. Uh, uh, on December 16th, it's the 50th anniversary of a country being born, Bangladesh, and it was facilitated by India. It's actually a culmination of what a lot of us believe is is the process that partition of India did, that is culturally separate people. And the Bengalis are one, whether it is West Bengal or Bangladesh, so they asserted themselves and in the process they become a free nation, which is, I am told, by all counts doing well. In some of the counts doing better than India because it's unified, a small state, one language, one culture. While India has to struggle with so many languages and cultures and all. When we started this conversation, Joshi ji was asking me, "मैं किस language में बोले, Hindi or English?" So that's our predicament. So, but I, as somebody who was born in south of India, understands Hindi, but not so fluent. And my Hindi, some of the gender things can jump. So I prefer to speak in English, and I'll prefer Joshi ji to speak in Hindi also, so that the viewers, the Hindi speaking viewers, can understand it better. So my first question, Joshi ji, is that you covered the Bangladesh war and you saw the birth of a nation. You know, it's a great big film, Birth of a Nation, by one of the American film, the Griffiths. So it is actually a birth of a nation, new nation, which is there today with all its problems like India. So how was it? How was the process? You know, you went through the 100 thing as a reporter, as a young reporter. I'm sure it should have been very exciting for you. So let's start by your how did you get into these things of reporting Bangladesh?
So, hello and namaste to Cherian and viewers. Uh, really, Cherian, as a matter of fact, I'm little bit uh, excited, no doubt, because on 16th December, the Bangladesh is going to celebrate its 50th anniversary of freedom or independence. You know, it is a very pleasant coincidence this year. India is celebrating the 75th year of independence this year, and Bangladesh is going to celebrate the 50th year of freedom. Okay, so it is a really excitement on this side of the border, on the other side of the border, because we are the neighboring countries.
Yes.
So excitement, enthusiasm, and sense of a historic achievement on both the sides of the borders. Really, you see, I cover this Bangladesh liberation war in 3 phases. My first phase starts in January 1971 and it lasts till October in Agartala. I was basically covering the eastern theater of the war. I mean, the Tripura. I was stationed at the Tripura, and there was a MLA guest house. We were housed there, not me only, but along with the other journalists who had come from different states of India, and they gathered and we were put into a MLA's house. There were a number of the rooms anyway. And in fact, I tell you, the guest house was a sort of shelter, not only for journalists, but for the Muktivani, for the soldiers of the Muktivani.
Yes.
I mean, you would surprised to know it that after the guerrilla warfare, they used to cross the border, and then they would take the shelter in the guest house. I remember, very vividly remember, that on one night, there was one gentleman, that Sheikh Kamal.
Mhm.
He stayed with me for 2 days, for 2 nights, and later on I was told he was the son of Bangbandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He was the eldest son
Okay.
who was later on assassinated in 1975 at Dhaka. So he stayed with me, and we had a very, very lively exchange of the views about the democracy, about the freedom, about the culture,
Mm.
about the, in fact, atrocities by this West Pakistan, because the West, this East Pakistan. I mean, that time it was the East Pakistan, not the Bangladesh.
Yes.
So the Islamabad inflicted a, innumerable atrocities on the Bengali people in East Pakistan.
Yeah,
And if you,
Joshiji, one question here. So then,
yeah,
for our viewers who are, less than 50 years of age, you must
yeah,
explain what was the reason for West Pakistan to do this kind of atrocities on the East. You
yeah,
have, you have to explain that so that people put it in the context.
I'm coming to.
Yeah.
You see, first of all, there was one gentleman I came across in Agartala, the Sirajul Haq. He was a very close friend, or rather, very close supporter of the Bangbandhu. And he made a very significant remark on the partition of India in 1947. One day he was talking to me about the tragic partition of 1947, about the partition of India in 1947. He told me, Joshi, look, the partition of Indian subcontinent was the rape of the human geography. You see, later on, the first India was divided, and after 25 years, the Pakistan was divided. So division of Pakistan, please do remember, और हम सारे viewers को भी याद रखना चाहिए, that religion is not only the cementing force of a nation state. I'm underlining this point, that in today's world, in 20th century, even the late 20th century, the religion has not been the only factor which keep any nation state together. The Pakistan, the West Pakistan is East Pakistan. Both belong to the Islamic religion, Islam, I mean.
Yes.
And not only that, on both the sides of Pakistan, there was the Sunni sect in West Pakistan and East Pakistan. Despite it, the dream of Jinnah, the founding father of the Pakistan, was disintegrated. Why? Because the other factors which keep a nation together, that is culture. The first thing is toleration, the culture, and the non-exploitative nature of the state, equal treatment, democracy, and proper participation in, proper share in decision-making process. But what happened after 47? Because the East, there was about more than 2,000 kilometer gap between West Pakistan and East Pakistan. If you remember, the Jinnah wanted to have a long corridor connecting both the sides of Pakistan, which was turned down by Nehru and Patel. How it can be possible to provide a safe corridor from from Lahore to Dhaka. It was not possible for any country for that matter.
Yeah.
When this request was turned down, what happened after the death of Jinnah, and when the military dictatorship came into existence in 1955 or 56, led by Mr. I forget the name for first dictator,
Ayub Khan.
Khan. So the military dictatorship, so the successive military dictatorships started exploiting the East Pakistan.
Okay.
And they started appropriating all the wealth, because the East Pakistan was very rich sector from the point of view of the textile industry, the jute industry, and the agriculture was very, very rich.
Yes.
So they appropriated most of them. The ultimate, what was the culmination of the separation from West? The reason for that the partition was that when the Awami League, under the leadership of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, swept the election, got the majority in National Assembly.
Yeah.
So, as a matter of fact, Mr. Sheikh Mujibur Rahman should have been made the Prime Minister of Pakistan. But he was deprived or denied this post. And Mr. Bhutto and Yahya Khan, at that time, General Yahya Khan was the commander, all in all. So they started creating number of problems and number of region excuses. Ultimately, of course, there was a different culture. The Bangla was the language of the East Pakistan, and in West Pakistan there were 3 or 4 languages. The main language was Punjabi, then Sindhi, then Pashtun. Okay. But the western side was very closely connected. I mean, Punjab, East Punjab, West Punjab, then the Peshawar, Pathan area, then the Sindh. But as far as the East Pakistan, I mean, Bangladesh is concerned, there was totally different scenery. There was no any connection, cultural connection, economic connection, social connection. The customs of the people in East Pakistan was totally different from West. Not only language or attires, I mean, but other things also. The way of life, way of living, but totally different. So,
so you mean to say they had the same religion, but cultures and people were different, and that led to this creation or the fight or the exploitation of one group on the other, the ultimate collapse of East Pakistan.
Powerful group, I mean, the powerful Punjabi group, basically the military, because this in Pakistan military, even today also, controlled by the Punjabis. You know, the Punjabis are in majority.
Yes.
And they control the Pakistan life mostly. So naturally, they started exploiting. But one thing, again, I would like to underline that the religion, I mean, Jinnah founded the partition of the birth of Pakistan on the basis of religion. The two nation theory. दो कौम, एक हिंदू कौम और दूसरा मुस्लिम कौम, means two nation theory. So when he created a theocratic state, I mean Islamic theocratic state, that dream, his dream was shattered, not by others, but by his own people. I mean the Sunnis in East Pakistan. So the other factor is economic equality, cultural equality, social equality, and judicial equality, equality in employment, equal treatment. These are the very decisive factors which keep the modern nation state together.
Yes.
Yes.
So you gave the background. Now let's hear about the action. How are you covering the action from Agartala?
So
Were you taken
as
to
I,
the front from Agartala? You are covering. So I'm sure it was a group of journalists taken by the army there, and they will brief you. Other than that, could you go to the field, the forward areas for?
yes, I'm coming to that point.
Yeah.
You see, as I was telling you, I covered this entire war, liberation war, launched by the Mukti Vani under the leadership of Mukti Vani in 3 phases. First phase my first phase starts in May 1971, and they continues till October, and then I return to Delhi. Okay. Then my second phase starts
One question. The first phase was in also from Agartala or from Calcutta or anywhere else?
No, from Tripura, because you know Tripura is a adjoining state.
Yes.
I mean, neighboring state of the East Pakistan, then East Pakistan.
Yeah.
So I stationed at Agartala. From Agartala, we were taken. I mean, the group of journalists were taken to different borders.
Okay.
3 or 4 borders, but we were mainly covering the Akhada border, which is very close to Kumilla of Bangladesh. Kumilla, hardly 10-15 kilometers, not very. But I mean, the outskirts of the Kumilla were very much visible from this side. Okay. So we were covering all the activities. One thing I would like to share with your viewers, very interesting. On one day, I had a very close shave with death. मौत के साथ बिल्कुल झड़प हो गई मेरी. You see what happened?
कैसे था? आप हिंदी में बोल दीजिए.
हाँ, मैं अखौड़ा बॉर्डर पर था और उसको कवर कर रहा था. वहां के उस समय पाकिस्तानी रेंजर, इधर हमारे यहाँ BSF होता है, we call it a BSF, on Indian side, border security force, and they call the Pakistani Rangers. And Pakistani Rangers, when हम लोग मैं जहाँ जगह था, मेरे साथ टाइम्स ऑफ इंडिया का, आनंद बाजार पत्रिका के और 2-3 और जर्नलिस्ट थे. मैं थोड़ा सा कुछ ज्यादा एडवेंचरस निकला. मैंने बिल्कुल ही बॉर्डर के करीब पहुंच करके और मैंने उसको कवर करना शुरू किया और रेंजर्स को देखना शुरू किया. They suddenly started fighting and I had to take a shelter behind a tree. And meanwhile, after 5 minutes, because death was very close to me. I had a close shave. I thought I could have been killed. I might have been killed at any moment. But meanwhile, the BSF provided a cover to me. Immediately, the 2 or 3 BSF people, they rushed to me, rushed towards the tree where I was just hiding myself, and they provided the cover. And after that cover, मुझे फिर बचा करके लाया गया. And of course, the senior, I remember the Prithvi Chakravarti from Times of India and Bhamik, they were there. तो जो वो कहने वो थोड़ा बहुत डांटने का कोशिश किया, because I was the youngest among them. They were very senior. कि नहीं ये ऐसा आपको नहीं करना चाहिए तुमको. जो senior लोग.
I didn't ask you. Were you with Nai Duniya then, or which paper were you then?
Yeah, I was covering for Samachar Bharati.
Okay.
Samachar Bharati was a multilingual news agency, like Hindustan Samachar.
Yes.
Like Hindustan, there were 2 multilingual news agencies in 1760s, 70s. First, Hindustan Samachar, the second Samachar Bharati. So I was working for the Samachar Bharati. समाचार भारती का टॉपिक सब जगह था, तो उसमें they used to collect the news, send the news to teleprinter. उस समय in those days the mobile was not available. Yes. And I tell you, only the 2 or 3 means were there: the telegraph, the trunk call. There were three categories or 4 categories of trunk calls: the ordinary, the urgent, the express, and then
lightning.
I forgot the name.
Yes.
Urgent, most urgent. They used to charge 4 or 5 times more.
Yeah.
So these were the means through which I used to send my file stories.
Okay.
And
so to come back to the story, you said the first phase was from May.
By the way, during the first phase, I met a number of the celebrities, people who crossed over to India. You see, there was a deluge of DPs, displaced person.
Yes.
We generally avoid using the word of refugees.
Yes.
We use the DPs, displaced persons.
Yes.
So there was a deluge of DPs who crossed over into Indian border from Chittagaon, Dhaka, Khulna, and your Kumilla and other district of East Pakistan. But there is one very, very, very interesting experience of Indira Gandhi.
Okay.
You see, Indira Gandhi, the Prime Minister, the late Prime Minister, she had come on 2-day visit to Tripura. And she wanted to visit some of the refugee camps, DP's camp.
Okay.
And DP's camp, थोड़ा अगरतला से 20-25 किलोमीटर, 30 किलोमीटर थोड़ा दूर थे. और वहां उन कैंप तक पहुंचने के लिए बिल्कुल पाकिस्तान बॉर्डर के साथ से जाना पड़ता था. That was very risky. And the security people, उन्होंने इंदिरा गांधी को बोला, मैडम, sorry, we can't take this risk. I think it is better that you fly in the morning by chopper, but don't you go in the evening, because after the press conference, she was determined to visit some of the camps. Then, despite all this security people's warning, she refused to change her visit. कि नहीं जो जाना है. और वो आपको ताजुब होगा जान के कि वो एकदम से very adventurously, and for the first time I saw her from very close quarters, how determined, how resolved she was. And she immediately rushed to her car and she sat inside. And when she occupied her seat, ultimately others had to follow her. Okay. At that time, the governor of West Bengal, this Padimja Naidu, she was with her. She had also, and then we journalists, we had to, ultimately we were forced to join the PM cat, PM's. We had to ultimately, and I tell you, she passed through the strip, very narrow strip of the border. Okay. And we could see the Pakistani soldiers were just sitting at the border with a gun to us. And she did not bother. And she spoke, I tell you, she visited 2 camps. I vividly remember. And she spoke for 50 minutes each. And I tell you, there was a tremendous enthusiasm among the DPs. And she told that the India is ready to support. And India is ready uh, to extend all kind of support, whatever is possible diplomatically, politically. But it is ultimately your fight. You will have to fight.
Yes.
And at the same time, she returned with the same way.
Okay.
And I tell she didn't bother about the threat, possible threat to her life. So that was the courage.
Yes.
That impressed me, not me, but other journalists also.
Yeah.
Really, वो तो सैल्यूट करने लायक थी इंदिरा गांधी का वो डिटर्मिनेशन. आज दैट डिटर्मिनेशन आज नहीं है मृदंग का.
Yes.
तो वो मुझे सबसे ज्यादा हमेशा मैं उसको याद रखूंगा. तो फर्स्ट फेज में आई रिटर्न टू इंडिया, sorry, Delhi in October. My second phase starts on 3rd December 1971.
That's when the
What
war
happened?
actually started, no?
Yeah, the war started on 3rd December 71.
Yes.
If you remember,
Yeah.
1971.
Yeah.
Because Pakistani fighters plane, they just bombed India, sir, some of the parts. They could reach up to Agra. They could manage to reach Agra, to Agra.
Yes.
And at that time, I along with some other friends, we were just gossiping or watching film in Connaught Place. And suddenly there was siren call. अरे क्या हो गया, बॉम्बिंग हो रहा है, ये हो गया. हम सब लोग रेडियो पे अनाउंसमेंट के कहो Pakistan has attacked, India is under attack, all. And Mrs. Gandhi at that time, Mrs. Gandhi was in Calcutta.
Okay.
She was not in Delhi. She had gone to Calcutta. She wanted to address, I think, some official work, and so all were scared. What will happen? Madam is not in Delhi. She is in Calcutta. Anyway, then I immediately went to Air India Lines office, Air India office, and asked whether the flight is still on or not, or cancelled. Oh, no, sir, flight is on, and don't worry, we will take you to Calcutta tomorrow morning. So my flight was on 4th December, my next morning. And don't worry that madam आ रही है रात को, आ जाएंगी और सब ठीक. And really on 4th December morning, I fly to Calcutta and stationed there for at least, I stayed there for 10 to 15 days. हम लोगों को जैसोर और खुलना ले जाया गया. We were taken to Jaipur and Khulna sector.
Okay.
And really, at the BBC correspondent was there, the Japanese, the number of the foreign correspondents were also there. But for them, that I tell you, some of the journalists who had covered the Vietnam War, so they just joking, Mr. Joshi, this war is nothing for us because we are returning from Vietnam. We were covering the Vietnam war between Vietnam and USA, America.
Yes.
So they were very, I mean, for them it was just nothing. Anyway, but we were taken there. And when we entered the Jaisor and Khulna, there was total devastation all over. Tragedy. मौत जैसे बोलते हैं ना, डांस कर रही थी. There was a heap of dead bodies all over. I tell you, I can't explain. The women who were raped, they were just weeping. Some of them, the children, the kids, they were just weeping. The fields were burnt. बिल्कुल उनको आग जला दिया गया. Their properties, their houses were pulled down,
Yeah.
everything. I tell you, they were a massacre. And at the same time, the Pakistani soldiers, they were hiding. इसलिए हमको पहले ही बोल दिया था इंडियन उस समय. हाँ, yes, by the way, Colonel Jacob, who later on was appointed as a governor of Punjab. Do you remember Jacob? Jacob.
Yes, yes, yes.
He was leading us.
Okay.
He was taking to the borders different because he was stationed at that time at Calcutta just to take care of the journalist media party. In those days, the world media was not there, only press party.
Press party.
You say, Acha, yeah, and what happened? There's another approach shave with that I had. What happened? In Khulna or in Jasol Bharat, what happened? You see, there are 2 or 3 stages of war. First is a contact point. Then, once you enter the contact point, it means the war area has started. Contact. After that, the eye to eyeball contact. And बिल्कुल आमने सामने. ये दुश्मन सामने खड़ा है, हम इधर खड़े हैं. वो बड़ा, that is a very sensitive area, risky area, and journalists are generally not taken there. Yeah. They are not allowed to cover because the risk is there. So we were taken to, when we entered the contact point of war theater. So we covered the story. But what I did, मैं और 2 Japanese photographers, 3 of us decided, no, we should थोड़ा और आगे जाना चाहिए. Let us go close to the border where the real fight is going on. But I told her then, but at the same time, they were very risky. But we could reach. Okay. And we could reach up to the point of eye to eyeball. Okay. What happened, Cherian? Suddenly, the crossfire started. Crossfire means the firing from both sides.
Yes, both sides.
Firing from both sides. From that side, I mean Pakistan, and this side from Indian border. And we were caught in crossfiring. Okay. And we were just about to be killed. I tell you, मैं उस समय के moments को I can't describe how much ऐसा लग रहा था कि अब तो हम लोग बचेंगे नहीं. The Japanese photographer at the same time, but one thing, the Japanese photographer at the same time, they were doing their duty. I mean, taking photographs and all that. जबकि उनको डर था कि कुछ भी हो सकता है. But anyway, our moral was high. So what happened?
One question here comes in.
No, just
did the army make arrangements for you to file the report?
Sir, I'm coming to that point. Yeah. So, Cherian, what happened? When we were caught in crossfire, suddenly after 3-4 minutes, suddenly Indian tank rushed to rescue us. Okay. Indian tank. So 2 Indian tanks. They immediately rushed and started, and we were instructed to just follow the tanks, Indian tanks. Okay. Don't go ahead. You just follow us. Stay behind us. And the crossfire continued for 10 to 15 minutes, ultimately stopped, and then immediately the military jeep came to us, and they picked up, and we were just asked to jeep mein baith jaiye. We were asked to sit in the jeep, and we were taken back to the base area. So again, we had to face the गुस्सा हो गया वो आर्मी ऑफिसर वगैरह, because it was their responsibility. Our life was
danger.
The protection of our life was in their hand. That was the responsibility. So naturally, they gave a good little bit thrashing. Okay. But anyway, But that was the second time when I had a close shave with the death. And finally, the third phase, this second phase continued up to 12th December 1971. And I came back to Delhi and gave a program on Doordarshan and AIR. That because I had some good shots, photographs, and then I presented a very live program on Doordarshan. That was for half an hour or 45 minutes, something like. And by third phase it starts from after the liberation, because on 16th December 1971, the Pakistan army surrendered to the Indian army. And under the leadership of Lieutenant Colonel Niazi, about 93,000 Pakistani soldiers surrendered to the Indian army led by the Jagjit Singh Arora.
Yes.
Lieutenant Colonel Jagjit Singh Arora. Yes.
Were you there in Dhaka then, or you were?
No, because I had returned to Delhi.
Yes.
But after 17, I again went, but that third phase. Yes. My third phase started again from Tripura.
Okay.
And then I went to Dhaka along with the Indian Army. They provided all military help. I mean, उनके जीप में ही गए और सब everything. They were giving the lifts to Indian journalists. Okay, come. And then I stayed in Dhaka. And I stayed in Dhaka for 4 or 5 days. Then I interviewed on Mr. Moni Singh. He was a leader of the Communist Party. Very popular leader, Moni Singh. Moni Singh's forefathers had migrated from Kanpur to Dhaka. And Moni Singh was the sole survivor as a communist leader in East Pakistan. You see. And I tell you, I found him always being surrounded by the Pakistani young men and women and students. Then I interviewed one Jasimuddin, who later on appointed as a national poet of Bangladesh. And he was a very lively person, Jasimuddin, and he knew most of the Indian leaders. He was basically a socialist. He was a sort of a follower of the Lohiya and JP. He was socialist, this Jasimuddin.
So, by when you are there in Dhaka, did Mujibur Rahman, Bangabandhu, come back to Dhaka? I'm told there was a big reception for him. Did you attend it?
No. He came quite late.
Okay.
By that time, I had to come back to India. Because he returned, I think, on 15th January or 16th, because he was not free. And after the diplomatic pressure by India, the Bhutto was come forth to liberate him. I mean, to really, because he was in jail.
He was sent to London and then India.
First he was sent to London, and from London he returned to Dhaka. So, but the interesting thing, one very interesting thing, and I'm still, मुझे ताज्जुब हो रहा है कि उसको कैसे कहूँ. I tell you, when I was flying back to Kolkata by Dakota plane. In those days, Dakota aircraft was very popular in those days.
Yeah.
So when I boarded Dakota plane, I was my next co-passenger was one Mr. Sanyal. He was a reporter of the Statesman, and he was in Dhaka not only Dhaka, but he went up to Chittagong. And because he was a Bengali, so he knew the language, local language, and could easily gather a lot of things.
Yes.
So he was telling me one thing. He told me one thing. Joshi, the fundamentalist forces are still strong in Bangladesh.
Okay.
Fundamentalist forces. And the fundamentalist forces can create any havoc. The other thing, it might be his gas, I don't know. But he told me, Joshiji, please remember that Bangabandhu would not last long physically.
My God.
Yes, he predicted, Joshiji, because since he is not pro-USA, he is pro
India.
almost like Soviet Union. And with the help of the Soviet Union, the India could get the victory for Bangladesh. Do you know there was a military agreement, defense security agreement between India and Pakistan?
Yeah, Americans.
India and Russia, Soviet Union, sorry.
Yes,
India and Soviet Union.
Americans were moving 7th Fleet to
American. Ultimately, the Americans stated that our 7th Fleet is moving towards.
After the India Pact, they stopped it.
Yes. That's why Indira Gandhi asked that there's a Field Marshal Manekshaw to do it immediately. I want that it should be finished, it should be over within 3-4 days. And ultimately that was done. But so I was just coming back to Sanyal's prediction. That was a very unfortunate and tragic prediction. Joshiji, remember one thing. The fundamentalist forces and certain section of the military men who are still the pro-Islamabad, they would not allow Bangabandhu to last long. And I tell you, the Bangabandhu was so simple, man, because I visited his house in Dan Mandi, very small house. He refused to move into a palatial bungalow.
Yes.
Indira Gandhi told him, please, Sheikh Saab, Indira Gandhi ने खुद ने कहा कि आप जरा उसमें चल जाइए, moved into a, because from security point of view, your present house is not.
Next door. I have been there. I saw the.
Yeah, you know the very true story. So, but he refused. No. There is no threat to my life. They are my children. These are the words. They are my children, my people. I'm quite safe. But what happened ultimately? On 15th August 1975, entire family was wiped out, eliminated, except Sheikh Hasina Wazir. Fortunately, she was out of Bangladesh at that time. I suppose perhaps she was in Europe. But when after that she took shelter in India and she stayed here.
She was in Chitrangan Park.
She was ultimately she was in that. So, but just see the Sanyal's forecast, when very unfortunate, and after 3 years he proved right. Unfortunately.
Yeah. So my last question is that as a political observer and somebody who has been watching politics all these years, what is the moral of this story? Now that there is a lot of build-up about religion, theocratic state, Hindu state, Islamic state, all that things happening. What is the lesson which Bangladesh liberation tells you?
You see, in my view, the the lesson, the message of this liberation war or the creation of Bangladesh is that the rulers should not use the religion, the language, the sensibilities of people for keeping them into power. One. Second, there is no alternative to democracy, equal treatment. And third, the cultural development, economic development, and equality are the basic parameters of keeping a nation together. Third, the fundamentalism, whether fundamentalism of any community or any religion, is basically anti-humanity. In 21st century, the religion played a progressive role in medieval days and up to a certain point, up to 18th or 19th century. But after, in 20th century, and 21st century, religion, okay, you are free to belonging to any faith, any religion, but don't mix up your religion and faith with the politics. Because politics is if there is a healthy politics, then you would be able to do justice to your citizens. You see, what is the yardstick of states with the welfare state is that how a state treats the last man in the society. That is a basic yardstick.
Yes.
You see, ये अगर आपका राज्य या स्टेट जो समाज का अंतिम व्यक्ति है, एंड इसीलिए गांधी ने कहा कि कीप एवरी whenever you are in confusion, you keep the last man, the betterment of the last person in mind. तो मैं गांधी को अभी मैं बिल्कुल रेलेवेंट मानता हूं कि अगर आपको देश को और समाज को, मानवता को या इंसानियत को साथ लेके चलना है, तो एक धर्म से, एक भाषा से, एक रेस से काम नहीं चल सकता. अब समय चला गया. अब देखिए कमला हैरिस वाइस प्रेसिडेंट है. कई जगह ब्रिटेन में आप चले जाइए, आपके वहां के होम मिनिस्टर, वहां के और दूसरे. तो मेरा मतलब अब आप एक धर्म से काम नहीं चल सकते. जो लोग करते हैं हो सकता है they may get temporary success, timely, but that will not last long.
Okay, this is a very valuable lesson from the history, that too recent history, which Joshi ji. I was a student in school. I remember the whole build-up through media, even in down south, and I had the privilege of telling the Russians, when I was working with the MTS for some time, why Russians are welcome in India? Because 71 war taught us who is the real friend of India. Because when Americans were attacking, going to send their Seventh Fleet, the Russians signed a pact, and American Seventh Fleet stopped. So that's recent history, and history also teaches you very many lessons. Thank you for articulating it for us. And I'm sure Bangladesh as a nation will progress in terms of the economy and its Human Development Index, which is, I am told now, is far more better than India. And
Bangladesh is ahead of India in certain sectors.
Yes.
As far as the human development
Index.
what
Yeah.
is concerned.
Yes. So I hope everybody in South Asia will learn lessons from the Bangladesh's liberation, especially in India. People who are talking about the religion as the basic motivator of politics. I'm sure this will all be a lesson in which is a living lesson. Bangladesh is a living lesson. They are doing well. Uh,
Yes, William. They
they
are
are
doing.
they may be a theocratic or really Islamic state, but they are not. They are also democracy and they are a welfare state. Thank you, Joshiji, for your valuable
Thank you. Thank you, William.
and wish your experiences as a journalist in covering war will all be, written in your book, which is about to be launched, the English book, your memoirs, and for journalism students and others, that will be a valuable information and valuable database for knowing history and how journalists and media play an important role in that. Thank you, Joshi.
Yeah.